Welcome everybody who's joining us here today. We are thrilled to be having this webinar about empowering women innovators and really talking about two important programs, the Equalize program as well as the I-Core program, some of the synergies between both and how this can help. We're here really to celebrate also in the month of March, Women's History Month. So we're thrilled to have wonderful speakers, as we will talk about in a moment, all wonderful innovators, entrepreneurs, scientists, all female entrepreneurs, and we want to really celebrate this and the great stories that are coming out from women innovators around the country. Yeah. And again, as those of you who are joining us now, this is in a partnership between the Mid-Atlantic I-Core Hub. This is a hub that is led by the University of Maryland and has other 11 institutions in it. Equalize, myself, I am from Kickstart Venture Services, a department at UNC-Chapel Hill that supports startups, but I am also the UNC I-Core site director, as well as the chair of the Mid-Atlantic Hub DEI committee. So again, for me, it's very close to my heart to promote more inclusive innovation. And I'm always trying to find ways to spread the word as to how great programs like I-Core can help innovators, again, around the US, around the globe. How can we support them? And I think both Equalize and I-Core are wonderful opportunities to do this. And in our case, for, again, today's spotlight, again, how to support more female innovators. Again, we've done such a wonderful job over the last few decades of increasing women in STEM, but we're still lagging behind women in startups. And again, for me, it's very close to my heart to increase more innovation that is female driven. And again, if you're here today, you'll get to hear some fantastic stories of all these female innovators here in our panels and what they've done, and you'll get to hear their stories. So this is the agenda we have lined up for you today. As I mentioned, some of you who are joining us either from the I-Core program, from different universities around the hub, around the US, understanding what Equalize is. Again, we're going to have Kristen from Osage University Partners talk about what Equalize is, and again, what is the Equalize community. Then I'll be talking a little bit of what is this I-Core program that we're talking about in a Mid-Atlantic I-Core hub. And then is when the real fun begins. We'll have, again, two great panels. The first one is how this program, what it means for those that are participating as university researchers. Again, a lot of our colleagues here from the Mid-Atlantic I-Core Hub are supporting researchers just like we do at UNC. And we encourage our researchers to participate in I-Core, and you'll get to hear from that. Have, again, great moderators and panelists. Bryn Lofness, Efe, Mona, and Stephanie will be in the first panel. And then the second panel is like, well, how can I-Core support you and your startup? You know, what does it mean? What sort of value can I get from that? Brianna is going to be moderating that panel with Leila, Kyung, and Selena participating as panelists. You'll get to hear from them in a couple of minutes. But first, again, I wanted to give incredible thanks to Kristen Lloyd and Katie for helping us organize this webinar with Equalize and Osage University Partners and all their help in putting this together. And I really wanted them to get a chance to speak about what Equalize is for this community as well. So thank you again, Kristen, and I'll let you go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm really glad to have this opportunity to tell people a little bit about the Equalize program. If you have any questions about the Equalize program, please do put them in the Q&A box here. A lot of the women who were actually a part of as panelists on the webinar today have been through the Equalize program or are currently going through the Equalize program. So they can also talk about their experiences as well. So I'm going to share my deck here and put it in presentation mode, so people can see it better. Can everyone see that all right? Okay, great. So Equalize, we're a program that was launched in 2020. It's a nationwide program to address the gender disparity in founding of startups out of academic institutions. As you may know, female members of the academic research portion of academic institutions constitute a certain percentage of the researchers at academic institutions, but lag even in those percentages as far as both the innovation aspects of what they're doing, but then especially with regards to founding companies. So we started this program back in 2020 to try to address this gender disparity. We've now had 93 participants go through the program since inception. It's a yearly program where we have a call for applications in the fall, usually October of each year. So you keep your eye out for that coming in October this year. The women then receive one-on-one mentoring, training. They develop a peer community, as well as a network outside of just the peer community that they have, either through their mentors or other people that they meet along the way through the program. We have added this year an experiential learning day where all of the equalizers will be getting together in person. That will be happening on April 29th at Mass Bio in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where they will be having a full day all together, as well as meeting local resources that are helpful to entrepreneurship. And then the entire program culminates in a pitch day and symposium, and I'll mention a little bit more about that in a couple of slides. Like I mentioned, our next application cycle does start in October, and you can find more information about Equalize at the website that's noted on here. Just because we get asked about like who can actually apply to Equalize, these are our qualifications to apply. You must have an academic appointment in order to apply, because our focus obviously is on female academics at research institutions, and they need to have a patent or copyright or something based on university IP. We have four industry areas that we concentrate on: therapeutics, medtech, physical sciences, and digital tools. The product needs to be less than 5 years in the clinic or product launch, and the startup has to have raised less than $1 million in dilutive funding. Actually, having started a startup is not a qualification to apply. So this is our virtual event that's coming up on June 20th. We encourage everyone who's here today to please come and join us and hear our fantastic 30 people who are going through the program this year. This is just an idea of the agenda. I won't go into it too much here, but I do have noted the website that you can go to, or you can snap this picture of this QR code and go and register to join us on June 20th. And we really do appreciate everyone's support. Speaking of support, we have fabulous sponsors for Equalize. These are our sponsors just so far in 2024. They help make everything happen. We are a nonprofit. Everyone who works with us is a volunteer. We have about 60 volunteers helping us with this program, and we really appreciate the support from all of these fabulous sponsors. So with that, if anyone wants to contact us, Nicole Mercier and I are the founders of Equalize, continuing to run it right now. These are our email addresses, so feel free to reach out to either one of us. But I know we want to get to our main programming, so I will stop sharing and pass it back to you, Maria.
Thank you. And again, as many of our panelists will tell you about this program, it's been very helpful for them. So again, those of you who are not familiar with it and want to learn more, again, feel free to get in touch. Kristen or some of our panelists as we'll be hearing from them. So let me just go back to our presentation here. So again, I just wanted to really talk about, for those of you from the Equalize community or otherwise who are not very familiar with I-Corps program, I just kind of wanted to share what it is. Yeah, so starting with, it was founded by the National Science Foundation in 2011, based on the Lean Launchpad methodology, and really kind of thinking again, how can we have all these research going around in the US that is funded federally here, but again, we're not getting the level of innovations that maybe we could be getting out of there. So this is what, the NSF was thinking back in 2011 and thinking, well, let's get entrepreneurial training for these researchers so they can really try to understand how to solve real world problems, meaning understanding something that, again, is a real pain point out there, and therefore increase the impact and odds of successfully commercializing this research activities. So again, it's been a program again that has going on 13 years now of this program, and it has very been very successful in commercializing activities now, because it is really based on understanding what that market need is. For us at UNC, we joined this National Innovation Network, which is part of the NSF I-Corps program in 2022. So we're relatively newcomers to the NSF I-Corps world. But again, we found it incredibly valuable since we've joined. This National Innovation Network is comprised of 10 hubs around the US, and you see it here in different colors. We are part of the Mid-Atlantic Hub. But again, if you're listening to us from other parts of the US, the nice thing is there's probably a hub near you. And there are over 90 universities across all these hubs across the US. And you don't need to be affiliated with one university in particular to participate, which is the nice thing. One of the silver linings of the pandemic is that it allowed us all to connect virtually. So many of the people who run the I-Corps program run their cohorts virtually as well. So this opens up the possibility for people who want to join an I-Corps cohort remotely in many parts of the US as well, and lots of flexibility with timing. The different hubs run regional I-Corps training programs, and then NSF runs national cohorts. I'll get into the differences between those two programs in a little bit. So for us, again, we are part of this Mid-Atlantic I-Corps hub, which is led by University of Maryland and has a lot of wonderful institutions, including in our state. We have 3, NC State, ourselves, and University of North Carolina, Charlotte. So it's really nice to have synergies across institutions, and we work very collaboratively to support our innovators across all these institutions. So it's wonderful, because sometimes you're looking for a mentor, and you can ask Johns Hopkins or Maryland or Carnegie Mellon. It's like, do you have somebody who has expertise in this space? And it's a really great way to connect with others and get different opinions, different mentors, different support from around all of this wonderful set of institutions and expertise. So what the regional I-Corps program entails, as I mentioned earlier, is all about getting evidence-based entrepreneurship to really build and validate business models. So all of you who are creating a startup company, again, rather than saying I have this therapeutic device, program, software, material, rather than just going on and building it, it's really understanding what the market needs by conducting interviews. In the regional program, the goal is to get 20 interviews in a period of 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how that particular institution runs it. And you meet as a team to really analyze those findings weekly. So you said, like I did 5 or 10 interviews this week, you get to analyze them and really see patterns and recognizing whether or not what you're hearing is something that validates moving forward or not with commercializing that particular technology, or how to move forward with that information. And as I was mentioning, the nice thing about working as a hub is that we have the ability to work across this community. So us at UNC, we encourage our teams to participate in not just our cohorts, but the ones that others are. So for instance, you can look at the ones that are coming for the Mid-Atlantic I-Corps hubs in this link. So again, we have several cohorts from Johns Hopkins, from Maryland, from George Washington. So you can see it's very nice that people can join any of those. So if you have time in June, but not in May, you can go to GW's cohorts and the like. And similarly, just like there's the Mid-Atlantic I-Corps, there's other I-Corps hubs that I showed you in the image earlier across the US. So again, many of them also have virtual cohorts you could potentially join as well at a time that is convenient for you and your research team or startup. So why participate? Again, again, it's not that high of a commitment certainly for the regional program. The national program has more of a time commitment, but it can help with professional development. If you are looking to gain expertise, if you're a grad student or postdoc and you want to understand, how to validate ideas, get a nice methodology and skill set, this really program allows you to develop those skill sets that will really help you throughout your life, whether you stay in research, create a startup company, or want to license your technology later on. And it's just experiential learning. Again, you're not selling your technology. You always stress that you're really there to understand what are the needs of both of the market, industry, partners that you're working with. Typically in the Mid-Atlantic, this is the type of pipeline we're looking for here. So there's a prerequisite course. So again, even those of you who said, well, I don't even have time for the regional ICOR program, you can also take this online course that is self-paced. It's 4 hours, and it gives you this introduction to the lean startup and customer discovery. If you like what you're seeing, you can go into the regional ICOR program. The one we run at UNC-Chapel Health, for instance, is 2 weeks. And again, as I said, the goal is to get 10 to 20 interviews. And then after you complete a regional program, whether through us, any partners in the Mid-Atlantic, or in any other regional ICOR program around the US, you can apply for the National Science Foundation ICOR program. This is what is called the National ICOR. That does come with a $50,000 grant. You must have 3 team members, and it is more time commitment over 7 weeks. And rather than just focusing on the introduction to customer discovery, validating your value proposition and users, you go through the entire business model canvas in those 7 weeks, really understanding cost and partners and others, the entire business model canvas. And then ideally, after you complete that, then you can apply for either seed funding, non-dilutive funds like SBIRs and STTRs. If you're still in research, PFI grants. Here locally we have NC Biotech grants and others. And there's probably other regional grants you can apply with in your state as well. But again, this really helps validate, even if you're going to be pitching for investment from investors, validating that market need can really help you make a way more compelling value proposition and have clear ideas to what the market needs and what your asks for funding should be. This National Science Foundation program, as I said, is 7 weeks. It's more intense. It's 100 interviews. As I mentioned earlier, you have to have a 3-person team, which consists of an entrepreneurial lead. So that is somebody who is willing to take the bulk of doing those 100 interviews. There's also a technical lead, which can be typically the professor, or in some cases, the postdoc or grad student, and then an industry mentor, which is somebody that has expertise in your field and can help and advise you as you go through this interview process. And again, as I said earlier, it really increases your chances of getting non-dilutive SBIR and STTR funding, because as you write your grant, it really helps validate whether this is a real need, whether there's anything else people are doing that might be competing with you, whether again you have enough compelling business proposition. So I want to leave enough time for our panelists, which can tell you firsthand how was this useful or not useful for them as they were going through their journeys, both as a researcher and those that have startups here. But I also want to leave you with my contact details here if you're interested in learning more about the program and applying through us to other members of the Mid-Atlantic Hub, or connecting you with some of the other hubs around the US. We're very happy to do so. So again, here is my email and phone number if you need to get in touch with me. And with that, I want to go and introduce Bryn Lofnes, and she's going to be our first wonderful moderator. So I'll let Bryn say a little bit about her background and introduce the rest of the panelists as well. So Bryn, take it away. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the introduction on iCore for everyone. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Bryn Lofness. I am the CEO and co-founder of my own university startup, BioBee. I'm currently in the Equalize program, as was described earlier. And I also went through the regional and national iCore program. So that's a little bit about the experiences that I've gone through as a university researcher, as well as where I kind of fit into this webinar. I'm really excited to introduce my awesome panelists. So I'll give them an opportunity to just say their names, say their experiences. Did they do the regional course, the national course? And I'll start with Mona.
Hi, sure. Was looking for the mute button. My name is Mona Azerbaijani. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Foresight Cares. I also went through the regional as well as the national NSF I-Corps.
Great, great. Feifei, do you want to introduce yourself next?
For sure. My name is Feifei. I'm from Carnegie Mellon University. I am co-founder and CEO of Magnify Biosciences. We also went through both regional and also national NSF program, which we find particularly useful, and I'm very happy to share my experience.
Amazing, wonderful. And Stephanie.
Sure. My name is Stephanie, and so I also went through regional and the national program. Our company's name is HiStep. We're still in the process of starting up the company, so we are applying for partnerships for innovation for this coming round, and then hopefully an SBIR. So still in the beginning stages.
Wonderful. So as you can hear, we have an awesome set of panelists here with a variety of experiences and having a lot of background going through both the regional and national courses. So I'd love to start out the panel by just asking the very simple question of how has participating in I-Corps really impacted your career trajectory as a researcher or as an entrepreneur? You're still in that kind of in-between stage. So how has it impacted you? Any of you that want to start can go ahead.
I'm happy to start. So I think for myself, it's mostly the mentality change, because I think for research, it's more for a scientific discovery. It's more me-centered, what kind of discovery I can cover. But I think for a commercial product, it's the other side. What I can discover is not as important as what the customer actually needs. So it's an entire mentality change. I can have a perfect solution where no one wants, or I can have something that's not seems very sexy or innovative, but that's exactly what people are struggling with. That's actually a better potential product for the customer. So I think it's mostly the mentality change by interacting with the customer directly and ask them for feedbacks.
I love that, Feifei. Goes from me-centric to customer-centric. Stephanie or Mona, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I
would
think that for
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to add to that and say it's also the network that you build, because you have to interview so many different companies, and you end up with this really great network that you can then tap into if you're building like a business model, or if you have questions about, any upcoming technologies, or if you want to, create some sort of collaboration. That's what we're doing now with one of the companies that I interviewed. So now we're collaborating with actually a few of them to continue developing the technology together.
Yeah, great, the networking. Mona, what about you? How has it impacted you and your startup or your research?
Sure. So also that, just to add to what was said, there are so many uses for so we developed this technology and there were so many uses, but then going through the I-Course helped us to understand what is the relevant kind of customer segment that we can focus on and kind of narrow it down to that specific customer segment. And by just going through that, we pivoted several times by talking to the customers and understanding their needs and their pain points, and just trying to adjust and adapt to what was actually tailored our value proposition to those demands.
Yeah, that's great, Mona. Yeah, you'll hear those keywords in iCore a lot of pivot in value proposition and really trying to drive that customer discovery to find that product market fit. So that's awesome. I'm glad you brought that in and talked about your learnings there. And I'm curious, it's kind of been brought up, this customer driven aspect of iCore. I think that's really a cornerstone of the program, of getting into the mind of who would be influenced by your product or buy your product or influence someone else to buy your product. So I'm curious for each of you, how do you feel that iCore has impacted the way you pitch or you present your research or your product based on this customer feedback?
I
I'm
can
happy.
just jump in. So, oh, go ahead. Go ahead. You want to go ahead, Faye?
Please, Mona, sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. Okay, sure. So I think that just going through the iCorps program and so many times just communicating our value proposition or our product to the team and to the mentors, it helps us to first better communicate what is our product and kind of narrow it down to what we are trying to address. And so it really helps us to figuring out how to communicate better. And I think that was very helpful going through the program.
Great. Fei, you had some thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, sorry, I think there is a little lag. I think we're definitely being pushed through the program in terms of like really focusing on value rather than features. Because I think as scientists in nature, a lot of time we're focusing on features, and a lot of things we think are particularly important are not really what investor or like customer are looking for. And then we were being pushed to communicating in a way that's either in the time saving or in the money saving. By the end of the day, if quicker, how much quicker? If faster, how much faster? If cheaper, how much cheaper? We're being forced to be like really quantify everything, and also getting more data points in terms of having the statistical kind of pattern or trend that can inform our decision. And also, I think it's more convincing, not just to the investor or customer side, but also to our team to make decisions. I think it's easier for us to also get aligned where once those kind of value are more clear.
Yeah, I love that. I think the quantification of these different value propositions or the quantification of the different ways that your product is going to make things easier for people or remediate some pains that they're having, and how you can put numbers to that is such an exciting experience, especially as a researcher, where you often come in feeling like, oh, it's hard to just ballpark this number. That was something that I struggled with, but starting with a number and working from there and letting these interviews drive that, I think that's interesting. I'm so glad you hit on that, Fei. Is there anything you want to add on that, Stephanie, of how iCore has influenced how you present or pitch your research or your product?
Sure. I was going to say, now I come more from like a problem solving type of discussion, because as a researcher, you think, all right, well, this is what my technology does. But now when you're talking to potential clients, it's, well, what's your pain point? And then how can I solve that? So that's, I think now it's a different type of discussion. And then the other benefit that I just kind of wanted to mention is it also kind of helps to see, well, where is the low-hanging fruit? And then, okay, once we've identified that, well, now what's the next target customer for us? So I'm speaking because that's what we're going through now. It's, okay, we've identified this type of client. Now, the next phase, let's check back in 5 years, see if the other type of client is ready to purchase this technology.
That's great. Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, now I'd love to shift slightly to the logistics side of iCore. And as you all know, moving from the regional course to the national course, it's time intensive. Anyone who tells you it doesn't take some time is very great with their time management. It does take a lot of responsibility and time and effort. And I'm curious, for each of you, do you have any advice or tips or tricks that helped you as a university researcher, balancing your research, all of those other kind of responsibilities with the logistics of I-Corps specifically? Mona, do you want to start on
So
this
just
one?
to kind of, oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mona. It's all you.
Sorry. Oh, okay, sure. So I was just wanted to say that it is a lot to kind of juggle. So during those, especially like at the beginning of the I-Corps and the national I-Corps, you really need to like clean out your calendar because you have to be present for the first few days. And then when the interview starts, it takes a lot of time. And I definitely, as you were mentioning, Bryn, is that developing that time management skills, that's something that most of the research kind of develop over the years, but just juggling between all that and figuring out how to do the kind of that challenges and just trying to go through it. But I think most importantly is that you need to trust the system of like what they developed, the program that they have, and just try to like keep up with all of that. I think that would be my my advice to the folks who wants to go through it.
That's great, Mona. Stephanie, what advice would you have for any university researchers already juggling responsibilities in time management who want to do the National I-Corps program?
So when I went through I-Corps, I was actually a PhD student. So I mean, I can speak about it from that perspective. I was not a professor at that point. But what I can say, at least for me, I had to block out those couple of weeks and really dedicate myself. Now, I was doing most of the legwork as a student. My advisor was not doing much, maybe, maybe 3 or 5 interviews. But I was the one that was really, putting the pedal to the metal, as they say. So I had to block out, I'd say the entire time of the I-Corps program was, that was what I was dedicating myself to. So that's what I would recommend doing. If you're the person that's going to be taking charge of all of the interviews, then yes, I would definitely block out my time for that period.
That's great. Feifei, what are your thoughts? Any advice?
So from my side, a couple of things. So first of all, I think if you can book some interviews for the first 2 weeks prior to the program, that's helpful. At least in the beginning, you don't have a lot of stress figuring out how the program gonna run. Second advice, I think really lean on the mentors. I book a lot of office hour from the mentors who can actually give very creative ideas in terms of who to reach out to, which I find really helpful. And third, I think if there is a conference, make sure you go to the conference because that makes things so much easier. You don't really need to cold outreach because everyone is just right there. But I think another aspect is just be shamelessly telling everyone I'm conducting a customer discovery program which require 100 interviews, and if I'm a student, I'm not selling, and then if you are also like domain expert, if you can give me like 10 minutes or so, I think actually people are more willing to give time than I actually thought. But yeah, that's some of my.
Feifei, I think that was
I
stellar
just
advice.
wanted to add something.
Yeah,
Oh, go
Mona.
ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Mona.
I wanted to also add that after hearing Feifei, is that like that mentor that you pick also rely on him or her to have a lot of contacts and kind of connect you with his contacts, because it's really hard to find like that 100 people in that short period of time.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Feifei, I think that was great. Mona, I think that was great too. I think you both hit on some wonderful things where it's good to schedule those meetings in advance or make those connections in advance. Doing the regional I-Corps gives you a really great understanding of having those interviews, but really setting yourself up for success through conferences and through putting yourself out there and being shameless. I think that's really great advice. Really great advice. Stephanie, was there anything that you found particularly helpful from the mentorship process of I-Corps? I think that's been touched on a little bit by some other speakers, and I'm curious for you, did you have a mentor through the program, and what did you learn?
Sure. Yes, I actually found a mentor so I'm a GEM fellow. GEM stands for Graduate Education for Minorities. And I won this fellowship while I was a PhD student, and really life-changing, same as Equalize. I'd have to say I've been very fortunate. And my fellowship, they actually connected me with a mentor from Lindy. So my technology is basically has to do with hydrogen storage and separation, and Lindy is one of the largest gas suppliers, I'd say globally. So my mentor works there, and she's also a GEM fellow. And we just connected. She, connected me with everyone pretty much that I spoke to during the entire I-Corps process. If it wasn't for her, and obviously, going through my own contacts, um, we both did, uh, I think pretty well during the I-Corps program, reaching I think it's minimum 110 interviews. So yes, I think finding a mentor is very key during the I-Corps program, because they're the ones that are going to connect you with people that you can interview, and not just any people, but people that are relevant for your technology, that you're going to go back to and maybe ask follow-up questions later on. So yes, I agree. Mentorship is very important.
That's great. That's really wonderful. Well, we're getting towards the last 4 minutes of this panel, and I want to give each of you an opportunity to share some closing thoughts, whether that's on your experiences as a woman in the program, or as a researcher and a woman, or as just a participant, or your takeaways, your advice, whatever you'd like to share with the group as your last little comment. Please feel free to share. Fei, would you like to start?
For sure. From my perspective, I think women are generally very harsh on ourselves. We always feel like we're not enough, but we're actually doing already a lot. And I think we're pragmatic, we're methodical, sometimes detail-oriented, and a little bit perfectionist. So I think one advice I also got from some of my mentors are, sometimes for entrepreneurship, we would actually benefit from almost like get ready, shoot, and then aim. Kind of have a quicker iteration, and then be more willing to show our ugly baby, or the potential solution or technologies to get feedbacks, rather than making it perfect, which actually take way longer than it actually need. I think that's some of the advice I found helpful, and also want to share.
Great. The be shameless aspect. I love it. I love it. Being bold. Mona, what are your thoughts? What would you like to share?
Sure. So as Feifei was saying, that being that female founder is like, first, in one hand, there are so many biases and kind of gender biases, but we also have that type of bias ourselves as women. So I think just to putting yourself, or through networking, find those mentors and like peers that are going through the same thing, or they have gone through the same thing, as women, would kind of help to navigate through some of the challenges. I think that's really helpful. And just don't sell yourself short, because you have we have a lot of unique value that we can bring to the team. And my co-founder is a male, so we see a lot of sometimes it's easier for him to represent the company. Sometimes it's easier for me to go and do that. So I think that we kind of balance, but I see a lot of just a single female founder, and they're doing great. So I think that just connecting with that supportive network of mentors, that would be my advice.
That's great, Mona. Thank you. Stephanie, what would you like to share?
Sure. I mean, I have a few tips that I've used over the years, and I've learned that work best for me. I think another panelist stated this, but not being afraid of putting yourself out there. So if you're doing, you're interested in starting up a company, write a LinkedIn post and state what you're trying to do. A lot of 9 times out of 10, someone will reach out and say, "Oh, I'm interested, or I know this, or I know that, and I can connect you with so and so." And then the other part is to set up a very strong and supportive team. So in my case, like I said, I have that my mentor from Lindy. I have my former PhD advisor who's still very much involved. And we all three of us work well together. So what one person lacks, the other person, makes up for that. So I'd say try and develop a strong supportive team, and don't be afraid to ask for help. A lot of the times we think we can do everything ourselves, and then we burn out. So try not to do that. It's okay to ask other people for help, and then finally, I'd say just keep knocking on doors. Be persistent. That's probably the biggest part here. I think if, I wouldn't have applied for all of these different types of fellowships, I wouldn't be here today, because it's because of the fellowships that I've been kind of encouraged to go this route, and that's why I'm here. So just keep knocking on doors and keep trying.
That's great, Stephanie. Thank you so much, Stephanie, Mona, and Feifei, for these awesome thoughts on how to be connected, how to network in advance, how to be prepared for I-Corps. What are some things we might look out for, being bold and being encouraged to be bold throughout that program. It's scary to take things from a lab into practice and work on translating that and understand how it might be translated. So this has been great. Thank you so much for all of your time.
And thank you so much, Breen, for moderating. Great job at doing that. And I don't know if it's okay with you all panelists to share your contact details for anybody, again, who's listening, again, as we're trying to build this mentorship networks as well. If you're okay for us to share your contact details, let us know, and we can do that as well, because again, you are wonderful examples of somebody who's gone through that, and I love the experience about GEM fellows that you were saying earlier, Stephanie, too. And I think we have one of the representatives of the GEM network here as well. So again, happy to share her details too later. But again, hopefully as female entrepreneurs and innovators, we can help with others that are starting that process as well. So with that, let's start our second panel, all about I-Corps and startups, and I'll let Brianna Hedlund again introduce herself. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. My name is Brianna Hetland. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, and I am also an entrepreneur myself. We have a company called The Family Room, which is a digital tool to help families engage in critical care while patients are in the hospital. I've had the immense pleasure of participating in both Equalize and I-Corps. So I have some questions today for this wonderful panel that are maybe a little bit selfishly motivated, as I myself am in this journey and looking for some advice and direction. So we're going to have this panel talk a little bit more about the I-Corps and as it relates to startups and sort of the translation of what you learned in the program and how it has impacted your business. So before I get started with my questions, I would just like to go round robin and have these wonderful panelists introduce themselves. And Layla, you're first on my screen.
Sure. Thank you, Brianna. Hi, everyone. My name is Layla Danishmandi. I'm an assistant professor in innovation and entrepreneurship at the University of Connecticut. Specifically, I work in the College of Engineering to help other faculty or students commercialize their research or launch companies of their own. And I'm also the co-founder and COO of Encapsulate. It's a medtech company in cancer precision diagnostics. We take a cancer patient's cells, we grow them outside the body, and we test all the possible chemotherapy drugs to tell the oncologist which drug is most effective for the patient from the very beginning. I went through NSF I-Corps regionally in 2019, I believe. And so, yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Layla. Hyun?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Kyung-hee Ki. I'm a professor of architecture at UNC-Chapel. I'm also practicing licensed architect. I launched a company called Equalize, which is focusing on the climate tech decarbonization aspect of the built environment through the microalgae integrated nature-based solutions. I went through the I-Corps as well, and then look forward to sharing what I learned from there.
Wonderful, thank you. And Selena?
Yeah, hi everyone, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. My name is Selena Shurkin. I'm currently an undergraduate senior at Johns Hopkins University, and I'm the founder of Fetal Therapy Technologies. So we're a medical device company, and we're creating a fetal surgical device. If you guys aren't familiar, fetal surgery is a minimally invasive procedure done on a pregnant mother to operate on a fetus to repair a life-threatening birth defect. So we're making surgical innovation and instrumentation for these surgeries to drastically improve the safety of these life-saving procedures. I've done the regional I-Corps through Johns Hopkins Technology Ventures twice, once with a previous company and now with Fetal Therapy Technologies. So really excited to be here today and talk with you all.
It's wonderful. I don't know about you all as viewers here, but I'm always so humbled to hear the amazing things that people are doing. This is so great. So my first question, and again, I will just kind of pose to the group, and whoever would like to answer first, please do, is what role did the I-Corps program play in the early stages of your startup's development?
So for us, I-Corps was essentially one of the first programs that we went to when we were considering to launch a company, or even before actually being very serious about launching a company. I think it's a very pivotal program, right? Up until this point, we're researchers. I was an engineer, I was a biomedical engineer, and we had thought of this idea. We had kind of developed a rough proof of concept per se, and we were very excited about this. But I always tell this story. We had never actually gone out and talked to the people that would benefit from the product. And so that was an eye-opening moment in my career for me as a biomedical engineer, being trained so many years, and I'd never even talked to patients or physicians or hospital administrative folks to understand if the solution that I am creating is even a solution that they are asking for. So I think that's a key moment where I-Corps can come into any founder's journey. The moment that you think that you have a research that has the potential to be commercialized, really getting out there, and I think the last panel also discussed this, really getting out there and talking to people and understanding what the market needs are and how can you tailor your solution, your idea to be able to benefit the people in need.
Yeah, and just piggybacking off of Layla here, I'm also a biomedical engineer. And so for us, when we're developing new technologies, especially for fetal therapy technologies, a surgical device, it's really important to understand the problem that's even leading to the creation of the device, and also how any type of innovation would fit into the current clinical workflow. So for us, when we were just starting out, before we even had a technology, we needed to get on the ground and talk to fetal surgeons. Fetal surgeons are a very niche specialty of surgeons. They're very highly specialized and trained. And as a result, there's not too many of them in the US. And so we were trying to talk to as many fetal surgeons as we could to understand the problem behind the need for innovation. And so in doing these interviews and in talking to fetal surgeons and understanding their pain points and their clinical workflow, we actually found a lot more things that we didn't know. And so, that kind of helped our company pivot into not just creating a medical device for fetal surgical procedures, but really we're doing the research now, really novel research behind the medical device. We're engineering the medical device, but we're also, creating new products and finding new products that are, directly in parallel with the surgical device we're creating, right? Like a training model. Fetal surgeons don't have a commercialized, readily available training model. So I-Corps really helped us figure out, number one, we validated the problem. We know 100% of fetal surgeons want new innovation, which was highly important for us to figure out. But we also identified new revenue streams, and we were able to segment our customers into fetal surgeons and clinical administrators. And I'm happy to talk more about that segmentation.
Yes, I'm in the construction industry. Although we have to improve the status quo to meet the carbon neutrality or the environmental impacts from the built environment, but I found that the construction industry is one of the also very slowly adopting new technology. So while I was talking to those interviewees, the program allow us to maybe refine the value propositions according to their expectations. Like, for example, we came with, let's say, like 10 years of the ROI, return on investment. But in fact, while we were talking to decision makers, they are looking for much faster ROI in addition to other practical aspects. So what I would say how the program helped in the startup is maybe allowing us to focus more on the defining the value proposition and try to find the evidence according to, the MVP, minimum viable products.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you all mentioned that, step one was really validating that a problem existed. But I heard value propositions come up in a couple of comments. And so I had an experience where you have a research value proposition that you've maybe tested, but from a commercialization standpoint, that could shift or pivot based on some of these conversations. So I want to know if through your customer discovery and through iCore, if you either were able to validate your initial value propositions, or did you have an experience where you maybe had to pivot a few? And can you talk about how those customer discovery interviews may have informed that process?
Yeah, I can probably start off with this question. For us, I mentioned we had two customer segments, fetal surgeons, the end users, and then the end buyers, which are actually clinical administrators who buy the product for the hospital system. So in doing our iCore, we quickly realized that we have two separate value propositions for each customer segment. And so by talking with clinical administrators, talking to nurses, talking to fetal surgeons, pediatric surgeons, we were able to identify those main customer segments and identify very distinct value propositions for each of those customer segments. So for example, we came with the assumption that we're innovating a device, we're going to make this surgery a lot safer by innovating this device, right? And we had to test the assumption that physicians had a 30 to 40% complication rate in procedures. We had to test the assumption that clinicians were not using optimized tools. They weren't. Spoiler, they're using tools repurposed from other procedures off-label, from vascular surgeries, right? So we were able to validate all of these assumptions and come up with very distinct value propositions. So for example, for fetal surgeons, we're making a safer device, fits seamlessly into their workflow, and it's optimized for the uterine environment. But for clinical administrators, we're saving hospitals millions in expenditure. We're improving the clinical workflow, making it more efficient. So those are, two different criteria that they look for.
Sounds like it was a really valuable process getting to talk to so many people. A lot of really good changes. That's amazing. Layla or Kiyoung?
I think very similar, not really much to add other than in our case, I think we were, I don't know, in some sense, maybe fortunate that we started our entrepreneurial journey with the product development. So they both kind of went hand in hand and in parallel. And so for us, just understanding what is the innovation here, but then also what is the product here, because they're not necessarily the same thing. And again, who is the customer, who's the end user? And I think, Selena, you just mentioned this, who's the user, but who's the decision maker? And then who's going to influence this product process? And then understanding the market map, right? So you're entering into a new territory, essentially. You're creating a product that is non-existent at that point. You're creating a new market. So understanding who's who in this market and understanding what their needs are and being able to create your product in response to that. And so obviously, yes, we pivoted here and there through understanding exactly what the pain points of each of these different stakeholders are, and there's so many, considering the different industry that you're going to be in. There's going to be regulators, there's going to be insurance companies or influencers or, people that will use it, the manufacturers, the distributors. There's so many different entities that are involved. And so understanding all of that, iCorps is a great step. And that's why, it's been so highly valuable for all companies that have gone through it, because you learn the tools to take that beyond customer discovery, even in the future.
Wonderful. Thank you, Layla.
Maybe I can add maybe additional thought about value propositions. So if you think that what you are offering as a solution acts as an aspirin, the solution must be available for those people who are in need of the pain, then that's a good. But if you think that your value proposition is like vitamins, it's good to have, but it's not critical, then you have to really think about how to pivot that what you are doing is very critical for the pain point.
Yeah, that's a really good, is the pain point worth paying for? I think is a simple way that we kind of asked ourselves that question. I want to go to a question that did pop up in the Q&A. So for each of you, did you join the I-Corps program knowing exactly what your idea was that you were going to test and validate, or did you sort of figure that out during the workshop itself?
For us, we knew the area that we wanted to innovate in, but exactly, you know, what the product would be or how it would actually fit in the workflow, the current way that things are done, that was something that we learned through the program.
Yeah, I would say for both times that I did I-Corps, I had a product or a very general idea of the product that we're creating, but I would actually really recommend I-Corps for founders who just have an idea or have an area in which they want to work in, because that way you can have the most unbiased interviews. You know, in general, when we were conducting I-Corps interviews, we didn't talk about our product. We tried not to bias the people that we were talking with, which is a good practice. And so if you don't have a product, you just have, you know, a space that you want to work in or some semblance of an idea, it's a lot easier to get just very general open feedback from the people you're interviewing, and that can really help you come up with a robust and validated product idea.
I think also one maybe aspect that you will learn a lot from the program is how to think and formulate the hypothesis about your technology. So instead of like make it open-ended and just listening their feedback, you come up with your own hypothesis to be validated. If I did, then this, that's your hypothesis, and then see whether the respondents respond that way or not. So by doing that, you will, you know, again, refine your value propositions.
Very interesting. I think, Selena, you brought up a really good point that I think is just so important to emphasize, is that in these interviews, you're not talking about a product. And that's actually kind of a hard thing to do. As some of us being classically trained researchers, it's a little easier to talk about a product, right? So that's an interesting approach to customer discovery. Along with that question, does the innovation need to be a physical product? Or can it be a service-based, skills-based, or software, an app? Anybody want to talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think for I-Corps, anything goes, right? You can have a, you know, mechanical solution, a physical prototype, an app, a website, you know, even a social venture. I think I-Corps, the real value in it is validating whatever space or whatever problem that you're working on. In general, when you have an entrepreneurship idea, it's really important to start with the problem and start validating that need. You know, is there a niche? Is there customers that will actually use whatever solution you create, be it a website, an app, you know, a tangible product? You want to validate that because those are your customers, those are your clients, right? And I think any type of problem area, any type of idea is a really great way to do I-Corps, because you are just validating your customer segment.
I like the framing of solution. You're testing a solution. So that really, I think, opens it up. We have just a couple minutes, and I want to close with maybe a selfishly motivated question. But looking at you as all such incredibly talented and successful women, I would like to know how you balance the dual expectations of being a woman in entrepreneurship, and then also that scientific research aspect and the metrics that come with that role. And what advice might you give those of us on this call today on how to balance some of that?
Maybe I will start it first. So again, I've been working on this topic for almost 14 years. But it still make me also stay up very late at night, but also like motivate me to continue to work. So I think the motivation comes from the faith that I can do something better for the society that's broader impact. And then the technical aspect is whoever want to invent, innovate the existing status quo, that's also going to fuel you to continue the journey.
A lot of passion on those hard moments. I like that. Layla and Selena?
Yeah, I don't know how I balance, to be honest. I balanced all throughout my PhD, and now I'm a faculty, and I'm still I get asked that question. I don't know, but I think very similar. When we talk to cancer patients and we see how currently the process is, and we see that we have an innovation that can help change the way that the current treatment processes are happening, how can you not be motivated and passionate about it, right? So very similar. I think it's coming from an internal thing, maybe motivation, an internal intrinsic motivation that you want to be able to help improve people's lives, whether that's, through our work at the university or at the startup, and societal benefit that comes from it.
Yeah, I mean, piggybacking off of that, right, I'm making a device used in fetal surgery procedures to improve the safety of the procedures, to reduce the complication rates. And in fetal surgery, these procedures are done at about 25 weeks, 20 weeks of gestation. It's half of a pregnancy. So the complication is preterm birth. And that's pretty terrible. That's something that should not be happening. And the reason this is happening is because physicians are using the completely wrong device in these procedures because there's no innovation in the space. So yeah, my motivation to work on this and to balance this is very personal. I'm very passionate about this issue. I'm very passionate about women's health. And so, I also came to Hopkins knowing that I wanted to work on a medtech startup. So I love entrepreneurship. I love being able to take my biomedical engineering background and blend it with business to create medical devices. And, my goal is just to help people. And, like Layla said, it's really to help people, and really a personal motivation.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing and being so transparent. I think it's really inspiring to hear what you're doing and the passion behind it. And it's also really encouraging to have a call like this. So thank you for our host today, to see that there are so many other brilliant women coming together to do these wonderful things. And so it's motivating to know that we are not alone in this endeavor. So I want to make sure we're conscious of time. It is 12 o'clock. So I'm going to conclude our panel and let our host take us to the next step of the call.
Thank you so much, Brianna, Layla, Selena, Kyung. This was wonderful, and again, so inspiring. And I think kind of follow up on that question, I think, is having this type of networks and hearing each other, and when we struggle, having other such inspiring women like you to reach out to and kind of ask for support is I think what certainly keeps me going. And again, I just love this story. So thank you for sharing them. And again, thank you, Kristen, for helping us organize this. I don't know if you want to say a last few words. Yeah.
Actually, I just want to say thank you, Maria, for being the inspiration and for putting this together. Really, it was really wonderful. And I'm so glad we fit this into Women's History Month. So
thank you. And again, there were some requests like Kyung. I know some people wanted your details. Again, if anybody wants to share them, please let us know, and we'll share them around. But thank you.
Yeah, and we'll follow up with all of the registrants with the information that was provided today. So hopefully that'll answer some of the outstanding questions about what all of our wonderful panelists are doing. So
thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.